specifically, I thought we should talk about something that came up in this last Quran and Me when we were covering Surah Al-Kahf. And it was the concept of really being in service.
Yeah.
And so many of us feel like we're just stuck right now. It's been 6 or 7 months of being in quarantine or some sort of isolation. And I mean, I personally feel stuck, and I know a lot of people just feel stuck. And then when we were going over the surah, one of the highlights was just, one of the key takeaways was, you have to be in service to get out of your rut or whatever it is that's holding you back. So I thought we'd spend some time elaborating on that and just talking about, what does that mean? And how do we get out of our stickiness even during these times, and be in service, continue to be in service?
Yeah, totally. As you said, and it's just like so interesting. SubhanAllah, in Surah Al-Kahf focuses on the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that the whole purpose of why we're here is that to just like to see who of us is going to be doing the best and most beautiful actions. And in the surah, he gives examples of what that looks like. And the majority of it is really around making a difference with others, whether through standing for the truth, being of justice, being of service, of whatever like capacities that you have, and do that for others, whether pursuing knowledge and learning from others. So it's kind of like always around that, it's always around doing that. And it's very, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not do something randomly. He just does it in a way that matches our way, that who we are, like how we're made. We're made this way. Like if you focus on yourself, if you just like are indulged in yourself, it gives you temporarily pleasure, temporarily enjoyment, but it just like at the end, it just like, it's heavy. It weighs heavy on you and you'll feel it, right? I mean, you do certain things and it's like, oh, it's awesome, it's great, but it's very short term. And right. He knows, like the things that really would fulfill you are when you extend yourself out of yourself and you just get out of your own interests and do things for a bigger cause, for something else, for someone else. That gives a longer term fulfillment and a deeper fulfillment. Yeah. And it's just, that's the way it is.
Yeah. And I think for me, maybe what's getting in my way is that I feel like already I'm being in service constantly with my family, being at home, homeschooling, taking care of everybody's needs, physically, emotionally, psychologically. I just feel like I'm constantly in service, that I can't give anymore. But at the same time, I also feel like that must not be the answer, because I don't feel fulfilled necessarily. At the end of the day, by this type of service, I just feel exhausted.
Yeah.
I don't feel like it's necessarily filling my cup, or it's not getting me out there. Like,
got you.
Myself,
Yeah.
And so, and I feel like a lot of people might be feeling that. I hear that a lot from a lot of stay-at-home moms and people who are working from home and having to deal with all of the ensuing, responsibilities of just everybody being at home. But that's also not, it's, yes, it's important to be a parent to fulfill everybody's needs, but it's also doesn't seem like that's the right answer.
Yeah.
To get you out of your stickiness,
That's true. But at the same time, yes. So there are two things to this. The first thing is, I think a lot of us just underestimate how important this role is. And we just kind of like feel it's a default role and we don't give it its due importance. And, people who lack it and don't have this kind of support, they just don't function that well in life. So I think the first thing to do is to really just understand and be thankful to being able to provide this role, because it is very important. It's really essential. That's one. And two, yes, it's not sufficient. You're right. It's not sufficient. Yet at the same time, you want to really give yourself that, allow yourself to just understand how important it is. You are an anchor person for the people around you. And without this, people around you can't, the people who are counting on you in holding that glue together and holding that space for them together, is very essential for them. And
Yeah.
a lot of the times we just kind of like it kind of becomes draining just because we don't understand how valuable this is. That's one. The second thing, yes, I agree, it's not sufficient. It's not going to fill your cup, because a lot of the times what would make a difference for us is when we have a bigger context of why we're doing what we're doing. Like when I'm pulled towards a certain goal,
Mm-hmm.
like there's something I'm working towards, there's something that
Yeah.
I'm really so connected to seeing in the future. I'm creating something,
Like it was a bigger
a
cause.
bigger cause, yeah, that kind of like I'm committed to. I want to see this. I'm seeing certain pains or certain something that's not happening, and I'm connected that I want this to happen. I'm seeing an injustice, I want to stop this injustice. Or I'm seeing something lacking in, for instance, the teens, and I just want to make sure that that happens. I'm seeing, poverty, whatever it is, I'm seeing something and I want to see people or see that being shifted in the world in a way that makes a difference for people. That's very fulfilling.
Yeah.
That's very fulfilling. And it doesn't, I think the biggest problem is that a lot of the times what we think, we look at these things as lofty goals, and I have to do this big thing, and I just like see people who made big accomplishments, and I just feel, oh come on, like really, I can't do that.
Right.
Well, one of the things, if you remember, one of the things that are so beautiful that we learned from Surah Kahf is the story of Dhul Qarnayn, the person who had so much power. And the ayah that got repeated throughout his story was فَأَتْبَعَ سَبَبًا. Like we gave him a cause, we gave him an access, and he followed that access.
Right.
So it's like, yeah, there is this opening that's thrown at you, or you have something and you just take it and you use it. And for us, a lot of times, if we really look in our lives and if we look at the opportunities in front of us, we do have opportunities. I am sure each and every one of us does have these kinds of things. It's just sometimes we underestimate it, we undervalue these opportunities, we don't care about these openings or whatever. Something that I have that's very unique about me, I mean, I just don't feel they're important, so I don't take them.
Yeah.
And I'm waiting for this big thing, I'm waiting for this big opportunity. Well,
Right.
that's not how it starts.
It starts in the small steps,
Yeah, in the small steps.
and taking a stand and just keep moving forward.
Exactly. Exactly. And if you follow the stories of all of these people who've accomplished huge things in lives, in their lives, it starts with something that was very, very small, that you didn't even like, it's not even noticeable.
Right.
It's not even something that you would really worry about. You call, what's his name? Tony Robbins, when he talks about this, when he had $70 in his bank account, like that's all the money that he had,
Right.
and
Right.
how he made the difference with this boy at the restaurant, and he gave him all that money, whatever he had, to go and buy food invite his mother to dinner.
Yeah.
And he said that was the opening for him.
Yeah.
That's where he got the money, like coming to some people giving his money back, and that's where a lot of openings started. You don't, a lot of times when you take the opportunity that's thrown at you, just use it.
Right.
Open your eyes to what is it that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is putting in front of you. Use these opportunities. Don't just like kick it. Don't underestimate it.
Right. And I know, like, recently I've talked to a lot of women, and just a lot of people with the recent death of Ruth Bader Ginsburg as an
Mm,
example of just how this one woman
yeah,
changed the course of history, and how much we're so indebted to her work. And, you know, we're all sad by her death, but at the same time, when you look at, like, we just hold her up as like, wow, I can't believe what this woman did alone.
exactly.
But when you go back and you see her life and her story,
Mm-hmm.
she had so many obstacles put in her way. Like, she went after something big, she couldn't get it, and then the door was closed, and she would take, like, okay, fine. She took a side road that seemed the lesser
Exactly.
time, but that lesser road opened up other things that eventually she, made it to the Supreme Court. And you know, has done so much amazing work for women in the United States and around the country or around the world. She's such an inspiring leader. But
Yeah,
you know, we see her now and we're like, wow, we can't be like, you know, RBG. But back then she didn't think she was going to be that, and she didn't know.
exactly.
She just took a stand and knew like that she had to take a stand for something, and this is what it was going to be, and she was just going to keep working on it,
Yeah,
working on it, and until, you know, so much has changed and so much is, you know, for the work that she's done. So
totally,
good
totally. See, yeah,
that even if an opportunity, even for me personally, like how I feel, and I think maybe some other people feel like things are just kind of shut in their face with the pandemic, um, that maybe this is just an opportunity for something else that's opening up and we're not seeing it, or we're not following the core.
totally. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's what I would say. Just like don't stop. Don't be stagnant. Just look, like tune in, you know, look around you with an open heart and with your soul. Not just kind of like the general looking, and look beyond you and beyond what, like, you know, what would be just like a desire, something that's deeper. Just look, and
Mm-hmm.
you will find it. Just keep moving. The most important thing is not to get stagnant and not to be like resigned about things.
Yeah.
Nothing's going to move. It always starts with small steps. It always starts with just following what is in front of you
Right.
until something pulls you. But without movement, nothing is going to happen.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
How about you? What is, has anything opened up for?
Well, I mean, yeah, it's just like so interesting. It's just like, you know, I mean, with all of the time that we've been doing everything online, and we're just like stuck at home doing basically all the work from home. You know, there's a lot of, it opened up some space in terms of doing the work around all of the material that we need to do for Guthrie, and all of the stuff that we need to actually document for Guthrie, so we can provide it for people.
Yeah.
Now it just like, it just became available.
Yeah.
I've been kind of deferring that and not wanting to do that, that,
I
and
know.
just like,
It's interesting
it's
how
just like thrown at you, you
we've
know.
been talking about some of the work that you're doing behind the scenes for 10 years.
Right.
Like one day when
It's,
these things need to get done, and because of the pandemic, it's like Allah just threw it at you, like you're gonna do this.
yeah, you're gonna do this, sit here on your computer and do the work. Yeah, so it's just like you have to just listen, and you don't resist it, whatever is, like that's the cause, just follow it, pursue it. أتبع سببا. Do what the Qarnayn did. You know,
Right.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you know, put his story in the Quran for that reason. It just gives us that access. You start small and you just follow that, rather than just like saying, oh, that's not good enough, that's not big enough, that's not
Or it's
what
not
I
worthy,
really
it's
want.
not gonna do anything in the grand scheme.
Exactly.
You really
Exactly.
don't know where your actions can create that ripple effect.
Totally.